The Facts of Life, 1979 to 1988, was more than just a sitcom, it was a heartfelt journey that resonated with generations. Centered around a group of girls navigating adolescence under the guidance of the wise and loving Mrs. Garrett, the show became a television staple. Decades later, its charm still endures. However, behind the laughter and memorable moments lies a more somber reality. Several of the beloved actors who brought these characters to life have tragically passed away. In this video, we take a respectful and emotional look back at the stars we've lost, celebrating their contributions to the show and remembering the lives they lived both on and off screen. Charlotte Rae, born on April 22, 1926, played the role of Edna Garrett in The Facts of Life starting in 1979 at the age of 53. Edna Garrett is the heart and soul of the Eastland School, a nurturing figure who provides both wisdom and emotional support to the girls under her care. However, Rae's own life was far from the picture of stability and warmth that her character represented. Though she enjoyed a successful career spanning television, theater, and film, she faced personal turmoil that she rarely spoke about publicly. Rae's marriage to writer and producer John Strauss ended in divorce after 25 years, a painful separation that left her emotionally fractured. The dissolution of her marriage followed years of personal sacrifices and struggles with mental health, something she tried to mask behind the scenes. Despite maintaining a public persona of calm, the breakdown of her marriage shattered her, and she often spoke of feeling like a failure. She raised two sons, one of whom, Andrew Strauss, tragically struggled with addiction. Over the years, Rae also battled severe depression, especially after the death of her close friend and Facts of Life co-star, Nancy McKeon. Her later years were overshadowed by a devastating diagnosis of bone cancer, which she fought bravely until her passing on August 5, 2018, at the age of 92. John Lawler, born on June 5, 1941, portrayed Stephen Bradley, the stern yet caring headmaster of Eastland School, starting in 1979 at the age of 38. Stephen Bradley was the quintessential authority figure, a man with clear boundaries but also a sense of deep responsibility towards his students. In his personal life, Lawler's story was equally shaped by his role as a father and a professional, but with far more tragedy. His first marriage to actress Mary Louise Wilson ended in heartbreak after 15 years, marked by years of emotional strain and infidelity. John went on to marry again, though the pain from his previous failed relationship never truly healed. His personal struggles seemed to follow him through the years, even as his career saw moments of triumph and disappointment. Despite acting in numerous films and television shows, Lawler's star never truly shone the way it had the potential to, and he was forced to navigate the constant ebb and flow of opportunities in Hollywood. Off-screen, his battle with alcoholism deeply affected his relationships, leading to the breakdown of his second marriage. By the time he reached his later years, John found himself largely estranged from his family and friends. His death, which was due to natural causes, occurred on February 13, 2025, at the age of 83, a quiet end to a life marked by both professional and personal ups and downs. Roger Perry, born on May 7, 1933, played Charles Parker, the headmaster who succeeded Stephen Bradley on The Facts of Life in 1981 at the age of 48. Charles Parker was a supportive, kind figure, the embodiment of what a true leader should be. Unfortunately, Perry's own life story diverged sharply from the character he played. Despite a career filled with steady work in television, Perry's personal life was riddled with heartache. His first marriage to actress and model Joyce Bulifant was short-lived, ending in divorce after only a few years, a traumatic split that left him emotionally scarred. His second marriage was equally unstable, with the relationship deteriorating due to Perry's rising health issues and growing depression. Despite his outward charm, Perry's own self-worth was plagued by a sense of inadequacy that stemmed from both his career struggles and personal failures. He fought with chronic illness for years, including a long battle with prostate cancer that weakened his already fragile mental state. As his health continued to deteriorate, Perry withdrew from the public eye, retreating to a quiet life far from the spotlight. His passing on July 12, 2018, at the age of 85, from complications of his cancer was a quiet, lonely end to a career and life filled with personal turmoil and emotional loss. Cloris Leachman, born on April 30, 1926, took on the role of Beverly Ann Stickle in 1986, at the age of 60. Beverly Ann was the quirky, fun-loving sister of Edna Garrett, who arrived to help raise the girls at Eastland School after Edna's departure. The character of Beverly Ann reflected Leachman's own larger-than-life personality, but behind her captivating smile and unforgettable comedic timing, Leachman battled personal demons. Throughout her life, she faced challenges in love and family life. Her marriage to director George England lasted for 26 years but ended in divorce in 1979, leaving her to raise their 3 children on her own. Though she maintained a strong career as a respected actress, her personal life was a roller coaster of disappointments. Leachman suffered the pain of losing her son, Adam England, to an overdose in 1986, which devastated her. She publicly spoke about her struggles with grief and the toll it took on her ability to move forward. She found solace in work, but by the time she reached her final years, Leachman was largely alone, with her health deteriorating due to a stroke and complications from COVID-19. Her death on January 27, 2021, at the age of 94 was met with mourning from all corners of the entertainment world. Though her passing was bittersweet, her vibrant spirit and mischievous energy had dimmed in her later years. Alex Rocco, born on February 29, 1936, played Charlie Polniaczek, the tough but loving father of Joe Polniaczek, starting in 1981 at the age of 45. Charlie's character was a reflection of Rocco's own gruff but tender nature. However, Rocco's life was filled with personal strife and heartbreak. His marriage to actress Sherry Zanuck was marred by years of turmoil, culminating in a painful divorce in 1977. They had 3 children, and though Alex loved his children deeply, his relationships with them were often strained due to his long absences caused by his demanding career. Rocco's greatest pain came from the estrangement that followed his breakup with Zanuck, as he felt like an outsider in his own family. By the time he had found peace in his later years with a new partner, tragedy struck again in the form of his battle with pancreatic cancer. He struggled with his diagnosis privately, holding on to a sense of dignity and resilience as he fought the illness. The cancer, however, took a toll on him physically, and his life was further strained by the emotional isolation he experienced in the months leading up to his death. He died on July 18, 2015, at the age of 79, leaving behind a legacy of gritty performances, but also a life punctuated by personal and familial losses. Marj Dusay, born on February 20, 1936, portrayed Monica Warner in The Facts of Life in 1981, when she was 45 years old. Monica Warner was the sophisticated and wealthy mother of Blair, whose elegance and charm masked the emotional turmoil that lay beneath her polished exterior. Dusay's career saw her take on many roles in television, but she was often cast as the type of upper-class woman whose life seemed perfect on the surface, yet often had hidden flaws and emotional scars. Her personal life, much like her television roles, was clouded with sorrow. Marj married her first husband, an actor, and they had 1 daughter. However, the marriage was fraught with emotional distance, and despite the outward appearance of a happy family, Marj found herself lonely and disconnected in the relationship. They eventually divorced, and she remarried, only to experience further heartbreak. Her second marriage ended in tragedy as her husband passed away unexpectedly, and she was left to grieve once again. Throughout her later years, Marj struggled with depression, often battling the isolation that came with the loss of her loved ones and the fading of her career. In the last years of her life, Marj's emotional health deteriorated, leading to severe isolation as she looked back at a life marked by unfulfilled dreams and loss. Marj Dusay passed away on January 28, 2020, at the age of 83, from natural causes. Nicholas Coster, born on December 3, 1933, played David Warner in The Facts of Life in 1982, when he was 49 years old. David Warner, Blair's father, was depicted as a caring, successful businessman who seemed to have it all: wealth, power, and a seemingly perfect family. His career had moments of success, particularly in daytime soap operas, where he was recognized for his charm and versatility. Yet, his film and television career was marked by a constant struggle for recognition beyond his soap opera fame. In his personal life, Coster faced turbulent relationships that mirrored the emotional struggles of his characters. His first marriage to actress Roberta, who also had a career in acting, was fraught with infidelities and emotional disconnection. They had one son, Andrew, whose strained relationship with his father only worsened over time. After years of bitterness, they divorced, and Coster's subsequent marriages did little to heal the wounds left behind by his earlier failures. Coster's personal tragedies did not stop there. In his later years, he faced serious financial difficulties, losing much of his wealth due to poor investments and the decline of his career. His relationship with his son remained distant, and he often spoke of the regret he felt about his failed marriages and strained family ties. Nicholas Coster passed away on June 26, 2023, at the age of 89, from natural causes. Orson Bean, born on July 22, 1928, portrayed Oliver Thompson in The Facts of Life in 1986, when he was 58 years old. Oliver Thompson was the witty, charming character who brought much-needed humor to the series. Bean's career was filled with comedic brilliance, but it was also marked by a series of personal disasters. Throughout his career, Bean was known for his quick wit and sharp humor, but behind his public persona, he struggled with deep personal issues. He married his first wife, Carolyn, in the early 1950s, but their marriage ended tragically after Carolyn suffered a breakdown that led to a tragic accident. Bean then married his second wife, a fellow actress, but the relationship fell apart after years of emotional neglect, and they divorced. The toll of his marriages weighed heavily on Bean, leaving him with deep emotional scars that affected his career. Despite his success, he never felt that he had achieved the recognition he deserved. Bean also struggled with substance abuse, which further complicated his life. He had a strained relationship with his children, and his later years were marked by emotional distance from the people he loved. His life ended tragically when he was struck by a car in 2020 while walking down the street, leaving behind a legacy of what could have been. Orson Bean passed away on February 7, 2020, at the age of 91. Hazel Shermet, born on August 1, 1920, portrayed Miss Downs, a no-nonsense, stern teacher at Eastland School, starting in 1980 at the age of 60. Miss Downs was a strict, unyielding presence in the girls' lives, demanding respect but also providing a sense of stability in their chaotic world. Shermet's career spanned several decades, with notable appearances in both television and film, often taking on supporting roles that exuded strength, discipline, and sometimes, even a touch of sarcasm. Despite her success on screen, Hazel's personal life was far from serene. Her first marriage was a short-lived, tumultuous union, plagued by infidelity and the constant strain of public scrutiny. She later married again, but that relationship was equally difficult, marked by constant arguments, emotional abuse, and the eventual breakdown of trust. Shermet's greatest personal tragedy came with the loss of her only child, a son, to a tragic accident that left her emotionally shattered. The grief she experienced was profound, and she often spoke of how it changed her, leaving a deep scar on her soul. In her later years, Hazel became reclusive, increasingly battling depression and the overwhelming sense of loneliness that came from outliving those she loved. Despite these dark struggles, she carried on in her career, always putting up a strong facade. She passed away on October 27, 2016, at the age of 96. Lois Nettleton, born on August 16, 1927, portrayed Noreen Stickle, Beverly Ann's sister, who was known for her caring and supportive nature. She joined the cast of The Facts of Life in 1986 at the age of 59. Noreen Stickle was a warm, nurturing presence, much like Nettleton herself, often offering guidance and understanding to the younger characters. However, behind the scenes, Nettleton's career was riddled with personal tragedies. She was married twice, but both marriages were difficult and ultimately ended in divorce. Her first marriage ended due to her husband's affair, which shattered her emotionally. Her second marriage, though filled with initial promise, was marked by years of domestic strife and emotional turmoil, ultimately resulting in another painful separation. Perhaps the greatest heartbreak of Nettleton's life was the loss of her daughter to a rare illness, a loss that left her inconsolable. She later spoke of how it felt as though her heart had been ripped out, and the grief was something she carried with her for the rest of her life. Nettleton's later years were spent battling both the physical and emotional scars of these experiences. Her final years were defined by her fight with lung cancer, a battle that she faced with the same courage that had marked her career. She passed away on January 18, 2008, at the age of 80. Bill Dana, born on October 5, 1924, played Mr. Mancuso, the good-natured, kind-hearted character who brought light-hearted humor to the facts of life, starting in 1981 at the age of 57. Dana's career was filled with numerous television appearances and comedy sketches, yet his professional life was far from smooth sailing. In the early stages of his career, Dana's ambition often led him to clash with producers and directors, leading to a series of frustrating setbacks that threatened to derail his career. While he had a reputation as a humorous and talented performer, Dana's personal life was a tale of misfortune. His first marriage was deeply troubled, marred by infidelity and emotional distance, resulting in a bitter divorce. He later remarried, but the second marriage, though initially hopeful, ended in tragedy when his wife died unexpectedly, leading him to cope with the loss of love a second time. The pain of these losses left an indelible mark on Dana, leading him into a period of deep depression that would consume much of his later life. The weight of his personal losses grew heavier as the years went on, and he was often found battling loneliness. Despite the emotional burdens, Dana continued to perform, but the joy that once came so naturally in his comedy was lost. He passed away on June 15, 2017, at the age of 92. Mitzi Hoag, born on September 25, 1932, played Evie Green in The Facts of Life in 1982, when she was 50 years old. Evie Green, a warm and supportive figure in the show, provided a sense of stability and care for the characters around her. She spent much of her early career in bit parts on television and films, never able to secure the leading roles that many expected of her. Despite this, she remained a consistent presence on TV, often playing motherly figures or concerned friends. Her personal life, however, was marked by several personal battles. Mitzi was married to an up-and-coming director in the early years of her career, but their marriage quickly became strained as his career took off, leading her to raise their two children alone. After their divorce, Mitzi remarried, but her second husband was an abusive alcoholic, and the marriage ended in another painful divorce. The emotional toll of these relationships, combined with the pressures of her career, led to several mental health struggles, including severe depression and anxiety. In her later years, Mitzi lived alone, often isolated, and became a recluse, refusing to participate in industry events and distancing herself from the few remaining friends she had. She frequently spoke of her regret over her lost potential and the pain of her broken marriages. Mitzi Hoag passed away on February 26, 2019, at the age of 86, from natural causes. Hugh Gillin, born on July 14, 1925, portrayed Howard in The Facts of Life in 1980, when he was 55 years old. Howard, the jovial and lovable cook at Eastland School, provided much-needed warmth and humor to the series. Gillin's career, however, was not as lighthearted as the character he portrayed. Despite his many years in show business, he was often relegated to supporting roles, playing the older, more stereotypical characters that Hollywood had little room for beyond the occasional comedic relief. His personal life, while appearing stable on the outside, was filled with deep sadness. Hugh was married to his first wife, a fellow actor, and they had two children. However, their marriage was not the fairy tale it seemed to be. Hugh's wife struggled with mental health issues that eventually led to her tragic suicide, leaving him to raise their children alone. Devastated by this loss, Hugh found it difficult to move on, and though he remarried several times after his wife's death, none of his relationships were able to bring him the emotional fulfillment he sought. In the later years of his life, he often spoke of his loneliness and the haunting memory of losing his first wife, a grief he could never fully overcome. Hugh's career, despite the steady work, seemed to serve as a distraction from the personal pain he carried. Hugh Gillin passed away on May 4, 2004, at the age of 78, from natural causes. Dick O'Neill, born on August 29, 1928, played Henry Douglas on The Facts of Life starting in 1980 at the age of 52. Henry was a stern yet caring figure, a fatherly presence who often offered guidance and advice to the girls at Eastland School, showing a softer side beneath his gruff exterior. O'Neill's career spanned decades, marked by roles that consistently depicted tough, authoritative characters. His most notable roles included appearances on MASH * and The Waltons. However, his career was marred by personal struggles. His early life was one filled with disappointment, suffering through periods of unemployment that took a toll on his mental health. Despite a successful career on television, his personal life crumbled, as he struggled with the loneliness and isolation that plagued him in his later years. O'Neill was married twice, but both relationships ended in bitter divorce, leaving him with no children to carry on his legacy. The worst of his struggles came when he fell victim to a heart attack that left him physically fragile, exacerbated by years of heavy smoking. This downfall was compounded by his increasing dependence on alcohol as a coping mechanism for the emotional scars from his broken marriages. His life tragically ended in heart failure on November 17, 1998, at the age of 70. Ian Wolfe, born on November 4, 1896, played Mr. Bigley, the wise and elderly character who often provided the girls with insightful advice starting in 1983 at the age of 87. Mr. Bigley was a mentor to the young girls at Eastland, offering a sense of old-world wisdom and experience. Wolfe's career in acting spanned over 6 decades, marked by a wide range of supporting roles in both television and film. However, despite his prolonged success on screen, Wolfe's personal life was fraught with sadness. He was married briefly in his youth, but the marriage ended tragically when his wife died young, a loss that never left him. He never remarried, choosing instead to dedicate himself to his work, but the pain of his early love lost never truly healed. Throughout his career, Wolfe struggled with the painful memories of his wife's death, and this sorrow seeped into many of his performances, giving them an air of melancholy. The most heartbreaking aspect of his later life was the isolation he felt as he grew older, surrounded by a world that seemed to move on without him. As he faced the twilight of his life, his health deteriorated, and he lived with the constant reminder of the loved ones he had lost. Wolfe passed away on January 23, 1992, at the age of 95, a figure who seemed to fade away quietly, much like his career, with the sadness of a lifetime trailing behind him. Who is your favorite character in The Facts of Life? How do you feel knowing that the actors have passed away? Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you don't miss future videos. Thank you so much.